What's up, Taiwan? I'm Joyce with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. After a Chinese influencer known as Yaya left Taiwan on Tuesday night over videos where she proposed forceful unification of Taiwan and China, the National Immigration Agency says 2 more Chinese influencers will have to depart Taiwan by the end of the month.
With the departure of Chinese influencer Yaya just hours before her deportation deadline, public attention is now shifting to 2 other Chinese influencers who are facing the same fate. Taiwan's immigration officials have told TaiwanPlus that the 2 influencers will need to leave Taiwan before March 31st. If they don't, they will be deported forcibly. All 3 of these Chinese influencers had their marriage-based residency permits revoked earlier this month after immigration officials found their videos on social media to be advocating the unification of Taiwan and China by force. By doing so, officials say they violated regulations governing Chinese citizens living in Taiwan because they threatened the country's national security and social stability. After Yaya's departure, the National Immigration Agency put out a statement, once again stressing that public remarks that advocate unification by force or destroying Taiwan's sovereignty are outside the boundaries of freedom of speech. As for other similar cases, the agency said it would continue investigating to show its commitment to safeguarding national security and social stability. They said there's no room for compromise when it comes to safeguarding the country's sovereignty. Currently, there are around 300,000 Chinese spouses living in Taiwan. To avoid stigma, the Mainland Affairs Council, which manages relations with China, is urging people not to target all Chinese spouses just because of these few recent incidents. In a statement, it emphasized that the majority of Chinese spouses love Taiwan and urged all Taiwanese people to continue welcoming Chinese spouses into our society with open arms. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Taiwan Strait, China's Taiwan Affairs Office put out a new message, asking people who suffer from, quote, suppression from the DPP authorities to contact them, or to report any individuals who are pro-Taiwanese independence. China announced new guidelines last year that allow it to try and punish anyone they deem a Taiwan independence separatist. All of this comes as Taipei is stepping up its efforts to combat what they say is growing Chinese infiltration and espionage in Taiwan. Devin Tsai and Cadence Quaranta for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's defense ministry has spotted 27 Chinese military aircraft and 6 naval ships operating around the country in the 24 hours up to Wednesday morning. 25 of those aircraft entered Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ. This area is not Taiwan's airspace, but acts as a buffer zone for defensive purposes. The defense ministry says 2 official ships were also spotted near Taiwan, and it's monitoring the situation. Taiwan has unveiled its first domestically made sea drone, and the military is now looking to use it for operations in the Taiwan Strait. Jaime Okan has more.
This is the Endeavour Manta, Taiwan's newest unmanned service vehicle, or a sea drone. The ship can communicate with troops on the ground, fire torpedoes, all without the need of a captain or a crew.
我们的摇头系统是自行研发。不会受制于别人，自行研发可以自行的扩展它的功能。
Taiwan's defense ministry says it's now assessing how advanced this new technology is and whether it can be used by Taiwan's military.
目前都在研议中。那未来的建军备战主轴就是以科技取代人力，火力取代的传统兵力。这个部分我们会纳到我们国军未来建军发展的主轴。
This push for unmanned systems is part of Taiwan's drone strategy, which aims to develop and produce thousands of different kinds of systems. That includes drones that fit in backpacks, some that can take off vertically, and now some that can operate in the ocean. Officials say the move toward drones is motivated by what they've seen in modern warfare.
乌克兰呢，他利用他的无人船去攻击俄罗斯的黑海舰队，他的马克洛夫海军上将号可以把它破坏掉。
Last year, Ukraine used a similar drone to attack a different Russian naval ship, and given threats from China, Taiwan is looking at lessons from the war in Ukraine. While the Taiwan Strait has some of the roughest waters in the world, this sea drone is tailor-made for the region.
这么小的船一般是不太能够在水面耐这么大的浪即便它都做成水密的状况，所以变成三体船之后，它们可以比较有效的耐浪。
Officials from the U.S. have encouraged Taiwan to turn the Strait into a hellscape if China decides to attack. not only protecting the lives of its soldiers, but providing an effective deterrent. And with this new sea drone, Taiwan appears to be taking another step in that direction. Fu Huahong and Jaime Okan in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's recall petition saga continues as prosecutors raid the offices and question several officials from the Hualien County government on Taiwan's east coast. They're looking into accusations that the officials violated privacy protections of local residents who signed a recall petition against their legislator, Fu Kun-chi. Chris Gorin reports.
It's been a long night for Ming Lianzhen. The Hualien County official had his office raided by prosecutors, and he, along with several others, spent the day answering questions about whether they violated the privacy rights of local voters. Imagine you're upset with your local legislator and you sign a petition to recall them. Then a short time later, someone claiming to be a government inspector arrives at your door, asking you about the petition and your identity. Well, that's exactly what some Hualien petitioners say happened to them, and it's the cause of the recent raids. The petitions are for the recall of Hualien legislator and opposition KMT caucus whip Fu Kun-chi. Known as the King of Hualien, Fu is a controversial and influential politician who once served prison time for financial crimes. Fu's home property was also raided earlier this month as part of a separate campaign finance investigation. He says it's all part of a long-running effort by the ruling Democratic Progressive Party to take him down.
上一次是收您的官邸旁边，这一次收到县府。一切依法行政啊。会不会觉得他们在想要助攻大罢免这一波这样？
剧本不是他们都写好了吗？ Hualien County officials have defended their inspections of petitioners, saying they didn't break any laws or regulations.
依法行政进行相关查核，建议中央选委会能够开设专门的讲习与教育训练，明确指导受托机关查对范围，以提升作业标准与一致性。
A spokesperson for the Fu Kun-chi recall effort, however, has applauded the raid.
其实蛮多疑点跟一些状况需要做厘清啦，是不是有恶意查水表？我们相信今天检调搜索调查之后我相信很快会给花莲公民一个交代。
The raids are just the latest in the growing controversy over recall drives across the country that have led to investigations, lawsuits, and political outrage on all sides. And with yet another legal action, which is sure to be met with countersuits, it seems the dispute won't be ending anytime soon. Chris Ma and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Cybersecurity experts are calling on Taiwan to build its own AI translation tool after auto-translate errors on government websites mistakenly displayed terms used in China. Users were alarmed when sites mentioned the anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China and China's term for its own defense ministry, sparking fears of a hack. Officials say it was a Google Chrome translation glitch, not a cyber attack. Similar errors recently named Taipei's police website as the Beijing Police Department. Taiwan has asked Google to fix the issue. Cybersecurity experts say Taiwan needs its own local translation tools, as most models use software based on Mandarin from China. The Trump administration is scrambling to downplay a major security breach after a journalist was added to a group chat with top national security officials. The editor of The Atlantic revealed that high-level officials were discussing active plans for U.S. military strikes in Yemen on messaging app Signal. Rosie Greninger reports.
Trump's intelligence officials in the hot seat over a Signal group chat containing sensitive war plans that a journalist was accidentally added to. At a Senate hearing investigating the breach, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and CIA Director John Ratcliffe, who were in the chat, testified.
There was no classified material that was shared in that. So then, if there was no classified material, share it with the committee. You can't have it both ways. These are important jobs. This is our national security.
Editor-in-chief of The Atlantic magazine, Jeffrey Goldberg, says he was added to the discussion on the encrypted messaging app by US National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. The chat contained 18 senior Trump officials, including Vice President J.D. Vance, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. There, Goldberg claims he read communications about an impending US attack on Yemen, one day before it happened. The The US launched large-scale military strikes against Iran-backed Houthi militants in Yemen earlier this month, an assault that killed dozens of people.
He was texting war plans. He was texting attack plans. When targets were going to be targeted, how they were going to be targeted, who was at the targets, when the next sequence of attacks were happening. I didn't publish this, and I continue not to publish it because it felt like it was too confidential.
After previously denying involvement, Waltz has now owned up.
Look, I take full responsibility. I built the group. My job is to make sure everything's coordinated.
But both Waltz and President Donald Trump have taken aim at the reporter, calling him a sleazebag and the bottom scum of journalists, as well attacking the magazine he works for. Trump insists there was no classified information disclosed in the discussion, and told reporters in Washington he had no intention of seeking punishment for those involved.
No, I don't think he should apologize. I think he's doing his best. It's equipment and technology that's not perfect, and probably he won't be using it again, at least not in the very near future.
That's despite Democrats calling for heads to roll over the debacle. They've called for the resignation of Waltz and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. And the breach has sparked alarm from US veterans and former government staff, who say the actions of these Trump officials could have put military and civilian lives in danger.
And if an adversary were to have intercepted these messages, what it does is it puts our fighter pilots who were up in the air about to conduct the operation against the Houthis at risk. I mean, it truly puts their lives at risk.
The White House say it's looking into the use of Signal, but has not announced its own investigation into the leak, attempting to sweep the blunder under the rug as Senate leaders consider if the breach will be probed further. Dolphine Chen and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says the U.S. will work with Indo-Pacific allies to counter Chinese aggression in the region.
We will work with our allies and our partners to deter the communist Chinese and their aggression in the Indo-Pacific. Full stop.
Hegseth made the comments at a security conference in Hawaii and called on allies to also, quote, do their part as well. It comes ahead of his first trip to the Indo-Pacific as defense secretary. He is set to meet top Philippine leaders to discuss tensions in the South China Sea before heading to Japan. The author of best-selling book Chip War says China is making its biggest push yet to develop its own chips, something the U.S. sees as a threat to national security. Speaking in Taipei, Chris Miller says the geopolitical battle over the critical semiconductor industry will only grow. Without giving an exact time frame for when China might catch up to U.S. dominance in the technology, he says Beijing's progress should be taken seriously. Miller also says Taiwan remains the unmatched leader in advanced chip manufacturing, a position strengthened by TSMC's recent investments in the U.S.
TSMC managed to put itself in a position of partnership with the new administration. President Trump was very supportive of TSMC in his remarks, praised the company, praised its technology, praised its centrality to U.S. AI supply chains. And I think all those are wins for TSMC. I think they're wins for the U.S.-Taiwan relationship as well. And I don't think the TSMC announcement solves every issue, but I think it does put the relationship on a much stronger foot than it might have been.
Miller warns that Trump will likely still target Taiwan on other issues like its trade imbalance with the U.S. and its level of defense spending, which Washington sees as too low. A baby has died from a hand, foot, and mouth infection in northeast Taiwan. The boy was less than a month old when he was infected with a strain of enterovirus. He died in intensive care after being hospitalized with respiratory problems. The death is Taiwan's second from the virus this year. Scientists say most pregnant women lack antibodies against the virus, putting newborns at higher risk. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Finally, take a look at the metallic horse Zeus from the Olympics, now on display in Lyon. I'm Joyce, take care and see you next time.